Good morning, my dear students. In the last class, in detail, we have discussed regarding the magnetism, magnetic properties, magnetic materials, etc. Now, today let us start the next topic about the electromagnetic induction. I think this electromagnetic induction, it is not a new topic for you because regarding this electromagnetic induction topic, already you have studied from the high school level. What are the basic concepts of electromagnetic induction? All those points you have studied in the high school level. To some extent, detail about that you have studied in PUC second year. Now, it's what it is the after that, then whatever in detail study regarding this electromagnetic induction is there, that we are going to discuss in this second semester. Now, before going to what it is the discuss in detail about this topic, once again, just recall some of the what is the basic, what is the points concerned to the electromagnetic induction, because no doubt you might have studied in your lower classes about this one, and some of the students might have what it is forgotten, is it right? Therefore, without the basic points of this topic, you cannot understand the further what it is the study of this electromagnetic induction. Now, let us go to the some of the what is the basic points concerned to this electromagnetic induction, isn't it? Now, before going to what it is understand about the electromagnetic induction, let us start from the beginning, isn't it? Now, see this electromagnetic induction, the concept of electromagnetic induction, it was what it is started by the scientist Faraday, isn't it? Faraday. Then he thought that see in the previous what it is the topics, then we come across the magnetic effects of electric current, isn't it? What is the magnetic effects of electric current explains? It explains that whenever the current flows through a conductor, the magnetic field is produced around the conductor. For example, this is a conductor, and when there is a current through the conductor, the magnetic field is produced around the conductor. Means this magnetic field is produced by using the current, isn't it? That is, whenever there is a current through the conductor, then only the magnetic field is produced around the conductor. If there is no current, no magnetic field. Means current can be produced, magnetic field can be produced by using the current, isn't it? Now, the Faraday thought that why can't be the reverse process? Isn't it? Why cannot be the reverse? Means why can't we get the current from the magnetic field? Isn't it? That is, in this magnetic effects of electric current, you are getting the magnetic field by using the current, isn't it? You are getting the magnetic field by using the current. That means current produces the magnetic field, isn't it? Now, Faraday thought that why cannot be the reverse? Means why can't we get the current by using the magnetic field, isn't it? Now, see this idea, it leads to the what is the invention of this electromagnetic induction. Now, here the Michael Faraday, to get the current from the magnetic field, isn't it? The very simple what it is the experiment performed by the Michael Faraday is that, and this what it is a simple experiment also you have studied in your lower classes, isn't it? Then if I recall that one, the coil and magnet experiment, isn't it? Coil and magnet experiment. Then how many of you remember about this experiment? That I don't know, but the basic concept is that in this electromagnetic induction, what it is, how to get the current by using the magnetic field, isn't it? Now, the Faraday, what he did is first to produce, that means our intention is to get the current by using the magnetic field. Now, first what you do is you provide the magnetic field. Let us take this magnet then this magnet produces the magnetic field. Let us assume that in this region there is a magnetic field, isn't it? Our intention is what? Our intention is by using this magnetic field, how to get the current. Now, suppose, isn't it? Let us consider you got the current by using the magnetic field. Then if you get the current, then to flow that current, whichever is produced by using the magnetic field, then you need a conductor, because current will flow. That for the flow of current, you need a medium. Isn't it? That medium is nothing but it is a conductor. Isn't it? Even if you consider by using this magnetic field, if the current is produced, means where that current, what it is should flow through a conductor, so that to flow the current through a conductor, that conductor he has taken in the form of a coil, like this one. That means by using this magnetic field, if we get the current, that current will flow in this conductor, which is in the form of a coil. The next, here, how to realize it? Isn't it? Can we see the current by using our eyes? No, we can't see. Then how to realize that there is a current in the conductor? Isn't it? Then how many of you are knowing that this point? I don't know. Suppose if you want to understand that there is a current in this conductor or not, how to detect it? By using the galvanometer. Isn't it? Therefore, this is connected to a galvanometer. Now here, if there is a current, then this galvanometer shows the deflection. Isn't it? If there is no current, then the galvanometer will not show the deflection. More current, more deflection. Less current, less deflection. Like that. Isn't it? Now, that is, once again, by using this magnetic field, if the current is produced, isn't it? Then to flow that current, we have used a conductor in the form of a coil. Isn't it? How to realize it, or how to understand that there is a current in this conductor? By using the galvanometer. Isn't it? Therefore, a galvanometer is connected. Now, if there is a current, then it gives the deflection. Isn't it? Now, if you get the deflection in the galvanometer, then it shows that there is a current in this, what is the conductor. If there is no deflection, then there is no current in it. Isn't it? Now, this is the very simple experiment performed by the Faraday. Now here, what will happen is, then he has taken a magnet to provide the magnetic field. Then by using this magnetic field, if the current is produced, to flow the current, he has taken the conductor in the form of a coil. Isn't it? Now, to realize or to understand that there is a current or not in this conductor, then he has connected what it is a galvanometer. Isn't it? Now, here, when you study the history of what it is this electromagnetic induction, isn't it, by the Michael Faraday, what it is the history, then very beautifully he has explained that he has taken a magnet, and in front of this magnet he has kept a coil, and this coil is connected to the galvanometer to get the information that there is there current is produced by using the magnetic field or not. Isn't it? Now, it is observed that when this magnet and the coil, isn't it, then both are at rest. When both are at rest, then it was found that there is no deflection in the galvanometer. No deflection in the galvanometer means what? There is no current in it. Isn't it? No doubt, the magnetic field is there. Then in this magnetic field, you have placed the conductor to flow the current, and if there is a current, then to detect it, he has taken a galvanometer. Then it was found that there is no deflection in the galvanometer. Means it shows that from this magnetic field, no deflection means no current. Isn't it? Then the next the step is that now instead of keeping this magnet and the coil both at rest, what it is done is this magnet, it is taken away from this coil. when this magnet is taken away from this the coil, then it is found that there is a deflection. There is a deflection. Then he got the idea that what it is. Yes. Now there is a deflection means what? Current is produced. Isn't it? Next, again he brought a closer to this coil. Then also there is a deflection in the galvanometer, but it is in the opposite direction. Isn't it? Earlier, when the magnet is taken away from this coil, there is a deflection in galvanometer in this direction. Isn't it? Now, when it is brought nearer or closer to the coil, then it is found that the deflection is there is a deflection, but it is in the opposite direction. Means it shows that there is a deflection means what? There is a deflection means current is there, but whatever the current is produced, is it in this, that is produced when the magnet is brought closer to the coil, then its direction is opposite to the earlier one. Isn't it? That means when the magnet is taken away from this coil, there is a deflection in galvanometer in one direction. When it is brought closer, then there is a deflection in the galvanometer, but it is in the opposite direction. Means current is produced in the opposite direction. But ultimately, is it we got an idea that, is it to produce the current from the magnetic field, whatever the magnet it is used here, that magnet should not be at rest, it must be in motion. Isn't it? Because when both are at rest, it was found that there is no deflection, means what? There is no current. When this magnet is taken away, there is a deflection, and when it is brought closer, again there is a deflection, but the direction of deflection is opposite, means the direction of the current, whatever it is produced, it is in the opposite direction. Isn't it? One thing. Now, the next, the observation is that, isn't it? In the first case, keeping this, a coil at rest, magnet is set into motion. Now, what you do is keep this magnet, at stationary. Isn't it? Keep the magnet at stationary, then you set the coil in motion. Isn't it? When the coil is taken away from the magnet, then there is a deflection. Now, when it is brought closer to the magnet, again there is a deflection, but it is in the opposite direction. Isn't it? Then again it shows that to produce the current from the magnetic field, isn't it? Either magnet or the coil should be in motion. Isn't it? If both are at rest, then there is no deflection, means what? No current is produced. Isn't it? The next, one more, the observation is that when the speed of the magnet, isn't it, or the coil, that means to get the current, isn't it, either out of these two, one of them must be in motion. Either the magnet or the coil must be in motion. Isn't it? Then if both are at rest, then there is no deflection, means what? No current is produced. Isn't it? Now, the next is here, when you increase the speed of the magnet or the speed of the coil more, isn't it? Then moment you make it more, isn't it? Then it is found that the deflection is also be more, isn't it? The deflection is more. When the speed is less, then the deflection is less. Means what? If the speed is more deflection means what? More current is produced, isn't it? If the speed is less, then the deflection is less, means then what it is the whatever the current is produced, that also be the less, isn't it? Therefore, the amount of current produced is proportional to the rate of speed of change in the speed of the magnet, or if the speed of motion of the magnet or the coil is more, then the more deflection is there. When the speed is less, then the amount of deflection is less, means what? The amount of current produced is also be the less. Now see, these are what the observations is it got by using this, what it is, a simple experiment. Now, here, this is a mechanical way, what it is, in which we have explained it, is it? That is, to produce the current by using the magnetic field, we comes to conclusion that, what it is, first conclusion is that, then any one of these two should be in motion. Either magnet or the coil should be in motion. Isn't it? Then only you will get the current. If both are at rest, then there is no current. One thing. Second is, the amount of current produced is what it is, the proportional to the speed of the motion of the magnet or the coil. If the speed is more, then what it is, the amount of current produced is more. If the speed is less, then what it is, the amount of current produced is also be less. These are the two important observations, is it, are got by using this simple experiment. This is a mechanical way, is it, by which we can understand that how to produce the current from the magnetic field. But the physics, what it says, that means when both are at rest, is it? When both are at rest, then no current, is it? If out of these two, if any one is motion, then only you will get the current, is it? If both are at rest, there is no, what it is, a current in it. Is it? Why it is to be so? And what to get the current from the magnetic field, then why, is it, one of these two should be in motion, is it? Let us, regarding this, the physics, or what the physics says about what it is, this one. Listen here. Then he has explained, isn't it, what means to get the current by using the magnetic field, then any one of these two should be in motion, then only you will get the current. If both are at rest, is it, you never get the current. Why it is it? Now let us try to understand here. Now here, let us, once again, I will draw here. Now before going to this one, then I want to introduce what it is the important points to understand this one. Well, those points already you have studied in your lower classes. I will recall those points. Then in the lower classes you have studied what are the magnetic lines of forces. Is it? Then I don't want to go in detail about this one. Magnetic lines of forces. Is it? What are the magnetic, what are the lines of, what it is the forces means? It is the, what it is the direction in which the pole moves or tends to move. Isn't it? Magnetic line of force is, what it is the magnetic line of force? It is an imaginary line, isn't it, along which a magnet or the magnetic material moves or tends to move. Then usually, is it, for example, this is a magnet NS, you know that the magnetic lines of forces are like this one. These are the magnetic lines of forces. Its meaning is that these are all the magnetic lines of forces. Then this, what actually it represents means, when you put a, what it is, a unit pole here, that pole, it moves along this path. Like, when you put it here, it moves along this path. When you put it here, it moves along this. And when you put it here, it goes like this. Therefore, then these are all called as the magnetic lines of forces. Means it is an imaginary line along which a, what is the magnetic pole moves or tends to move. That means either it moves, otherwise it tries to move in that direction. Isn't it? When you put it here, it will move along this path. Then this is a one magnetic line of force. When you put it here, it moves along this path. This is another magnetic line of forces like this one. Did it? These are the magnetic lines of force. Next, what it is the magnetic flux? Magnetic flux. What is the magnetic flux? The number of magnetic lines of forces crossing through a certain area, isn't it? That is, now suppose, let us consider this is a certain area, isn't it? Through this area, whatever the number of magnetic lines of forces are flowing, isn't it? Those many number of magnetic lines of forces passing through a certain area is called as magnetic flux. Means if more number of what it is the lines of forces flows, then it gives a more flux. If the less number of magnetic lines of forces flow, then magnetic flux is less, isn't it? Now you are observing that in this, what through this area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 magnetic lines of forces are what it is the moving through this area. Now in the same area, isn't it? Then let us take the area of this, and this is same, but here the more magnetic lines of forces are there as compared to this one. Here it is 5, here it is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are there. Isn't it? Therefore, here more in number than this one through the same area. Then we say that flux here is more than flux here. Isn't it? Therefore, the definition itself explains that what is the magnetic flux? The magnetic flux is the number of magnetic lines of forces passing through a certain area. It is a number. If there are more number of magnetic lines of forces crosses, that gives a more flux. If the less number of magnetic lines of forces crosses, that gives it is a less flux. Then here let us consider the what is the 10 number of what it is the magnetic lines of forces are flowing through an area, what it is the ds, isn't it? Area is equal to 10 or 20 centimeters square, whatever it may be, isn't it? Now this what it is the flux, it is represented as what it is a 5, isn't it? Symbolically, flux is represented as a 5. Now flux per unit area is called as the field, isn't it? Then what it is a flux per unit area, is what it is called field. Now that is given by flux per unit area means flux divided by area, isn't it? Now let us take instead of what phi d phi, let us take it here. Then d phi flux per unit area. That means flux ratio of flux to the area. It is pronounced as flux per unit area. That is called as the field. Now here, if you take the magnetic flux per unit area, that gives it is a magnetic field. If you take electric flux per unit area, that is gives a electric field. Now since we are discussing about the magnetic flux, magnetic field, magnetic flux here, therefore magnetic flux per unit area, it is called as the magnetic field. Then what it is the this is the basic points. First, what is the magnetic line of force means what? It is the imaginary line through which a magnetic pole moves or tends to move, like this. Next, what is the magnetic flux? The number of magnetic lines of forces flowing or crossing through a certain area is called as the magnetic flux. The next is the flux per unit area or magnetic flux per unit area. It is called as the magnetic field. That is magnetic field, it is equal to what it is the magnetic flux divided by area or magnetic flux per unit area. Now see, this is the what are 3 points. Now with the help of this one, now let us try to understand, isn't it, that when we are coming to the main point here, that out of these two, that is the magnet and the coil, out of these two, if any one is in motion, then only there is a current. If both are at rest, then there is no current, isn't it? And if the speed of motion of the magnet or the coil is more, then more current you will get. If the speed is less, then you will get the less current. Why it is to be thing? Now, listen here. First thing is, now this is the magnet. It produces the magnetic field. Now, if there is a magnetic field means there is a magnetic flux also, isn't it? Because without flux, there is no magnetic field, because magnetic field B is equal to d phi by ds, flux per unit area, isn't it? Field is there means what? Flux is there. If what it is the field is zero means what? Flux is zero. Even in the reverse way. If there is no flux, no field. If there is a flux, there is a field. If the flux is more, field is more. If the flux is less, field is also be less. This what we keep it in your mind. Now, let us take, this is a magnet and this magnet produces a magnetic field here. Now, if we want to get the current by using this magnetic field, that current is made to flow through a conductor which is in the form of a coil. Take this one, and if there is a current in this coil, that can be realized by using the galvanometer. If there is a current here, there is a deflection. If there is no current, no deflection. Isn't it? Now, what will happen is when these two are at rest, isn't it? Then there is no, what it is the deflection means what? No current. Now, when this magnet, it is taken away, isn't it? When this magnet is taken away from the coil, isn't it? Then what will happen is whatever the magnetic field which is linked to the coil, isn't it? When this magnet is taken away from this one, then whatever the magnetic field or magnetic flux linked to the coil decreases. Carefully you observe the figure here. When this magnet is taken away from this coil, the magnetic flux linked to the coil gradually decreases. Isn't it? When there is a decrease in the magnetic flux linked to this coil, then there is a deflection. Isn't it? Now, what you do is here, for example, let us draw this figure still little bit clear to understand you. Now, when this magnet, it is up to here, then the magnetic field is completely linked to this coil, isn't it? Completely linked to this coil. Now, when it is this magnet, it is taken away, isn't it? When it is taken away, the magnetic flux linked to the coil will, when it is up to here, the magnetic field is up to here, isn't it? When this is taken away, then the magnetic field linked to the coil will also gradually decreases. Then when there is a decrease in the magnetic flux linked to the coil, then there is a deflection, means current is produced. Next, again when you brought closer, then what will happen is the magnetic flux linked to the coil gradually increases. Then again there is a, what it is a deflection, isn't it? Now, if both are at rest, then what will happen is whatever the magnetic flux linked to the coil, neither it is increases nor decreases. There is no increase or decrease, means we use the word there is no change in the magnetic field or magnetic flux linked to the coil. Then when both are at rest, then the magnetic, there is no change in the magnetic flux linked to the coil. If there is no change in it, then there is no deflection, means there is no current in it. Now, this, what it is, explains that. Carefully listen here. If you want to get the current from the magnetic field, then there must be change in magnetic flux, isn't it? When there must be the change in the magnetic flux. Then change means what? Either increasing or decreasing. Increases, we say there is a change. Decrease, then also there is a change. Therefore, general word we use either increasing or decreasing means there is a change in the magnetic flux. Whenever there is a change in the magnetic flux, then only the current is produced. Suppose if both are at rest, then there is no change in it. Means neither increasing the magnetic flux nor decreasing the magnetic flux, isn't it? That means no change in the magnetic flux, so that there is no current produced in it, isn't it? That means this shows that if you want to get the current from the magnetic field, condition is what? Condition is that there must be the change in the magnetic field or magnetic flux, isn't it? When there is a change in the magnetic field or magnetic flux, then the current is produced in it, isn't it? If there is no change in it, then there is no, what it is, the current produced. Whenever there is a change in the magnetic flux, then the current is produced in it. When there is no change in the magnetic flux, then no current is produced, isn't it? Next, second observation is what? Second observation is that when the speed is more means what? Rate of change of flux, isn't it? That means at whatever the change in the flux takes place, the rate of change, when we increase the speed, rate of change of flux is also be more. When there is a rate of change of flux is more, then the more current, isn't it, is produced in it. Are you following? Therefore, these are two observations. It explains that. First thing is that if we wants to get, isn't it, the current from the magnetic field, the essential condition is that there must be the change in the magnetic flux. Whenever there is a change in the magnetic flux, isn't it, then the current is produced in it. If there is no change in the magnetic flux, then there is no current, isn't it? And the second is what? When the rate of change of flux is more, then the more current. Then if the rate of change of flux is less, then there is a less current, isn't it? This is what the information it gives by using this the experiment. And now I am introducing one more the factor here. Then this also you have studied that. Then if you want to get the current, then you need some the EMF also, isn't it? Without EMF there is no current, isn't it? Because according to Ohm's law, this I is equal to what? It is a E divided by R. Isn't it? E is what? EMF, or what it is the voltage, isn't it? Then current is there means what? EMF is there, isn't it? If there is no current, then there is no EMF. Now by using the current, by using the magnetic field, current is produced means what? EMF is also be produced, isn't it? Without EMF, there is no current. That means by using the magnetic field, you got the current means what? You got the EMF, isn't it? Whatever the current is produced, that is called as a induced current word, and whatever the EMF is responsible for it, that EMF is known as the induced the EMF. That means due to the change in the magnetic field, whatever the current is produced, that current is known as the induced current, and whatever the EMF is responsible for it, that is known as the induced EMF, isn't it? Now, with the help of this one, listen here, in this experiment, whatever the two observations you got it, now those two observations itself kept as the laws of electromagnetic induction, isn't it? That is, in this simple experiment, whatever the two important observations, are got, those observations itself they kept as the laws, and those laws were proposed by the Faraday. Hence, they are named as the laws of electromagnetic induction. Now here, the first observation is known as the first law, and the second observation, it is known as the second law of electromagnetic induction. Now, first let us try to understand what is the first law. What is the electromagnetic induction? The first law. What it is? Whenever the first law, it states that whenever there is a change in magnetic flux, isn't it? One more important point. This what I want to make it clear that be careful. That point I should have made it clear earlier itself. Let it be. Now see, we come across that to get the current by using the magnetic field, what must be the essential condition? Essential condition is that there must be the change in the magnetic flux, isn't it? And another is here, which magnetic flux must be changed to get the current? Isn't it? The magnetic flux which is linked to the coil, isn't it? That should be changed. Are you following? And let us make it clear that point also here. Suppose let us see here, this is in this space there is a magnetic field or magnetic flux is there. Now when this magnet is taken away, then field or flux decreases here. When it is brought nearer, then flux or field increases here. That is, there is a change in the flux here in this region only, isn't it? Now suppose that is you are changing the flux here, but you kept the coil here. Isn't it? Magnet. Then change in the flux takes place within this region only. Then if you put the coil here, isn't it? Whatever you do the change, will you get the current here? No. Isn't it? That also make it clear. Then instead of keeping this coil, that coil should be kept here. That also very important it is, isn't it? Then see, we say that whenever there is a change in the flux or field, then the current or EMF is produced in it, isn't it? That question is that which flux must be changed? The flux which is linked to the coil, isn't it? Therefore, the flux which is not linked to the coil, if such a flux is changed, then will you get the current? No, isn't it? That also you remember it. Now, I will come to the point here. First, law is that whenever there is a change in the magnetic flux, linked to the coil, that word you have to use it. Whenever there is a change in magnetic flux linked to the coil, then the current or EMF is induced in it. Current is produced means what? EMF is also be induced. That is what it is. Once again I repeat, whenever there is a change in the magnetic flux linked to the coil, then the current or EMF is induced in it. And there is a current or EMF. Current is there means what? EMF is also be there. Isn't it? There is a current or EMF as long as there is a change in the magnetic flux. That means when up to what extent you get the current or EMF, you will get the current or EMF as long as there is a change in the magnetic flux here. Whenever you stop change in the magnetic flux, then the production of the current or EMF will also be stopped. That is what its meaning. Now, once again, I will repeat the first law, that is, whenever there is a change in magnetic flux linked to the coil, then the current or EMF is induced in it. Isn't it? There is a current or EMF, isn't it? As long as there is a change in the magnetic flux. Isn't it? Its meaning is that as long as, that means to whatever extent there is a change in the magnetic flux which is linked to the coil is there, then till then you will get the current or EMF. Means when you stop the changing, then the production of the current or EMF will also be stopped. This is the first observation, and that first observation is known as the first law of the electromagnetic induction. Now second, then what is the second law? The amount of current produced is proportional to the speed of the magnet. That means here if the speed is more, I had told you that the rate of change of the flux is also be more. Therefore, the second observation or second law, it states that the magnitude of the induced EMF. Isn't it? That means magnitude means a value. How much amount of EMF is produced? That is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. Means if speed is more, rate of change of flux is more, then more EMF is produced. If the speed is less, rate of change of flux is less, then EMF produced is also be less. So that the magnitude of the induced EMF is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. It is represented by d phi by dt, isn't it? Now, these two laws are known as the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. Now, the first law, once again, I will repeat here what it is. Whenever there is a change in the magnetic flux linked to the coil, then the current or EMF is induced in it. There is a current or EMF as long as there is a change in the magnetic flux. Second, the magnitude of the induced EMF is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux. Isn't it? Now see, these two observations are known as the laws of the electromagnetic induction. Isn't it? Now, the next third is there is a one more law connected to this electromagnetic induction. It was proposed by Lenz. Isn't it? Lenz, Lenz law of electromagnetic induction. Now, what is this Lenz law of electromagnetic induction? It explains, means it gives the information about the direction of the induced EMF. Now, here what it explains that when there is a change in the magnetic flux, that change in the magnetic flux produces the EMF, isn't it? Then, if the EMF is produced means, isn't it? Then, what about its direction? That is, EMF, whatever the EMF is produced, that EMF is produced in what direction? That you can determine by using this, what it is the third law proposed by the Lenz, that is known as the Lenz law. Isn't it? Now let us see here. What is the Lenz law? It states, the statement, carefully listen here. The statement is the direction of the induced EMF is such. Words, carefully listen here. The direction of the induced EMF is such as to oppose the cause which is producing it. Isn't it? What it is? The direction of the induced EMF is such as to oppose the cause which is producing it. Isn't it? Now see, by using this one words, how many of you have understood that? I don't know. Its meaning is that to produce the EMF, who is responsible? Rate of change of flux is responsible. Isn't it? Means if there is a rate of change of flux is there, then EMF is there. If there is no rate of change of flux, then no EMF. That means to produce the EMF, who is responsible? Responsible person is rate of change of flux. Now he says that then these two are opposing each other. Isn't it? These two are opposing each other. Means here, if you take opposing means, if the EMF is positive, then this will become as a negative. They are opposing. Are you following? Isn't it? Once again, I repeat here, its a statement is that the direction of the induced EMF is such. Direction of induced EMF is such as to oppose the cause which is producing it or which is responsible for it. Meaning is that to produce the EMF, who is responsible? EMF is rate of change of flux is responsible. Isn't it? This man is responsible to produce this one. Then he says that both are what it is the opposing. Then how will he represent mathematically which are opposing? Means when one is taken as positive, other will be taken as negative. Hence, this is written as E is directly proportional to, then since it is positive, we put it here as negative, minus d phi by dt. Isn't it? Now, this here, E, in order to remove the proportionality, we will put some constant, then minus k into d phi by dt. Then here k is the constant of proportionality, and in the lower classes already you have studied that in SI system, isn't it? This value of k is equal to 1, isn't it? Therefore, in SI system, then k is equal to 1. Now, when you write k is equal to 1 here, then you will get E is equal to minus d phi by dt. Isn't it? Now, here, these three laws, they are named as laws of electromagnetic induction. The first two laws are proposed by the Faraday. Hence, the first and second law known as the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, and third law it is proposed by Lenz. Hence, it is named as Lenz law. Then collectively, these three laws are known as the laws of electromagnetic induction. Now, this is what. Now, see, finally, listen here. I want to summarize this one. First of all, what is the meaning of the electromagnetic induction, etc. Briefly, listen here. The first thing is that according to the magnetic effects of electric current, it explains that magnetic field can be produced by using the current. Magnetic field is produced by using the current. Next, Faraday thought that why cannot be the current by using the magnetic field? Isn't it? Now, thus, what it is the thought leads to the invention of this electromagnetic induction. That means, then how to get the current by using the magnetic field, isn't it? Then, after studying all these things, it shows that if you want to get the current by using the magnetic field, there must be the change in the magnetic field or the change in the magnetic flux, and which magnetic field or which magnetic flux will be changed to get the current? That field or flux which is linked to the coil is changed, then only you will get the current. Otherwise, no, isn't it? The next is by changing the magnetic field or flux which is linked to the coil, then current or EMF is produced in it. That phenomena is known as electromagnetic induction. And in this, what it is the electromagnetic induction, then there are laws, two laws proposed by the Faraday, named as the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. And the third law, it used the information about the direction of the induced EMF proposed by the Lenz, named as the Lenz law. And these three are known as the laws of electromagnetic induction. Now, after understanding the introduction of this electromagnetic induction, now let us try to understand the types of electromagnetic inductions. Now, there are two types of electromagnetic inductions. Now, types of electromagnetic induction. There are two types of electromagnetic inductions. Then what it is? The one, self-induction, and second, mutual induction. Now, let us try to understand what is the self-induction and what it is the mutual. Now, see, we have discussed that the electromagnetic induction, laws of electromagnetic induction in detail. Now, here, let us, see the types of electromagnetic inductions. Now, there are two types of electromagnetic induction. Then one is the self-induction and the second is what it is a mutual induction. Now, I think regarding these two, that is a self-induction and mutual induction, isn't it? Then we'll discuss in detail in the next class. That will be the better one. Now, one thing or one point I want to suggest you that I think regarding this self-induction and mutual induction, this is also be a not a new one for you, isn't it? Already you have studied in your lower classes. Then suppose if you are having what it is the books or notes with you, isn't it? Just you go through it, isn't it, at a glance, isn't it? What is the meaning of the self-induction and what is the meaning of the mutual induction, etc. Then if you just go through it, if you are having a what is a brief idea about what is this one, then in understanding it will become easy for you. It becomes easy for you. Otherwise, what will happen is those students then who don't have the concept or idea about this one, it appears like a new for you, isn't it? You may feel any difficulty in understanding this one. So that my sincere suggestion for all of you is that then just you go through about the self-induction and mutual induction. Then we will discuss in detail about these two in the next lecture. Now, thank you one and all.